It's Sleeper on Your Marks Wrestling, feeling a lot better than last week, and I'm here with a Raw review / recap. This was an episode of really long segments, so I'm going to have a lot of trouble remembering everything that happened. So I got my handy notes over here, 2 pages worth. I was hoping to make this a shorter video. Chances are it's going to go long. You've been warned, but thankfully only like 2 or 3 of you actually watched this, so it's good. So we start the show with Kurt Angle in the ring. He's got some bad news. Roman Reigns is still suspended, and the crowd cheers. It's always kind of funny when WWE says something, but you know it's going to have this different reaction than what they want. He also announces that Brock Lesnar is not there yet, which does get some boos. He starts addressing the Braun Strowman tag team situation, and that's when Roman Reigns interrupts from the crowd. I was glad to see he was not wearing his bulletproof vest in the crowd. And you know what? He's still a big guy. That's fine. He doesn't need the stupid vest. If he got rid of the vest, I think I would like him 5% more without him changing anything about his character. So anyways, he gets in the ring, and sure enough, Angle doesn't have time for that. Basically, after a couple of seconds of trying to reason with him, walks out of the ring and sends out U.S. Marshals to arrest Reigns. And Reigns doesn't take too well to being touched by a U.S. Marshal and beats up 3 U.S. Marshals, which, you know, I'm not American and I'm not a lawyer, but I suspect that beating up a U.S. Marshal, or 3 of them, probably means like 3 years in jail or 10 years in jail, something like that. So I'm guessing we're not going to see Reigns for another decade. And I don't know if everybody's going to complain about that. So yeah, basically I've made a note that Tommy Lee Jones should have shown up. I don't even remember if that guy's in the movies U.S. Marshals. I think he is. I thought it was a funny joke in my head, so I said it. So anyways, Reigns is eventually handcuffed, and then Lesnar comes out, and Lesnar beats the crap out of Reigns, and then he kind of leaves the ring, and then he jumps back into the ring and beats him up some more, which is all enjoyable, by the way. So then Reigns is getting carted off on a stretcher, and Lesnar comes back out and shoves the stretcher over so it falls. It's the most gentle shove you'll ever see. But I guess they get the whole point across that, you know, Lesnar's a mean person. It was fine. It was fine. Like, I've seen worse beatdowns, or better beatdowns, I should say. But at least they got the point across. The crowd got to see Lesnar. Lesnar got to look badass. Reigns got to be there. Next, we have a video package recapping the Nia Jax Alexa Bliss thing from last week, which was a great segment, so I was glad to see it again. Then we had Bliss versus Asuka, and it starts with Bliss cutting a promo on Jax, or kind of on the audience, saying, you know, she doesn't regret anything she said to Nia Jax. She says that after kind of faking that she's going to apologize. It was fun, like, whatever. She's a decent promo, and she's supposed to be a jerk right now, so it worked. The match starts during a commercial. And I know that in the States they're getting these matches in a picture-in-picture kind of situation with commercials. But in Canada, we don't. So this really, really sucks. I want to see the whole match, or at least the main parts. So this match goes as you'd think. James interferes, helps Bliss along the way as much as she can, while Asuka kind of gets beaten up a little bit as a result of it. I made a note of some things that were said in commentary because I thought it was actually kind of funny, where Graves says to Coach, haven't you been watching the show? And Coach says, yeah, I watched it, but without any volume, basically digging at Graves. Later on, Graves makes a pop culture reference and kind of calls out Coach for not getting it and saying that it was a great pop culture reference and that's why he gets paid. It's a Mean Girls reference, by the way. Great movie. At one point, Bliss did hit a kind of like Canadian Destroyer looking thing, which was cool. Then Asuka had an ankle lock. Then Bliss basically gets herself counted out, which is a shitty finish. You never want to see that. I hate it when that happens. I know it's part of wrestling, but whatever. Bliss is walking out, and Nia Jax's music comes on, and all of a sudden Bliss's ankle is a little bit better than it was before, and she kind of runs away. Before that, she kind of throws Mickie James into Nia Jax, which was kind of funny. So Jax runs after Bliss. Eventually, James comes to Bliss's rescue, which kind of doesn't make sense because Bliss just sold her out. But whatever. And Jax kind of destroys James, and Bliss manages to make it out, but Jax kind of chases her out. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know if I like this that much. It wasn't terrible. It was predictable and whatnot, and you kind of needed to do it. I just didn't love it. Then we go to commercial, and we come back, and you see Bliss talking to Angle, says that Nia Jax should be arrested. And Angle says, and he really struggles with this one, he kind of forgets what he was trying to say and resets himself twice. But eventually he gets the whole, my daughters have to watch the show and they just saw you bully someone else and, you're lucky to get away with it. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up a match at WrestleMania between you and Nia Jax. And Bliss is just kind of stunned, which was good. Her facial reaction on that one was perfect. So Braun is in the ring, and he explains that he doesn't think he needs a partner, but management is telling him he does need a partner. He gets interrupted by the Bar. Interruptions are kind of the whole show this week. Bar interrupts and says, they say that they're going to beat up whoever partners with him and all this stuff. I struggled just like Angle did. Braun says that he's actually taking on one of the Bar right now, that night, or tonight. And the Bar kind of have this thing where they're both going into the ring together. Sheamus kind of fakes out Cesaro. Cesaro ends up in the ring, so he's the one that takes on Braun Strowman. They go to commercial, come back. Cesaro actually controls most of this match. I was surprised by how much offense they gave Cesaro, but I guess they need to make the Bar believable before WrestleMania. So Cesaro gets a ton of offense in. Eventually, I forgot to mention, during the Bar's promo, there was a line that was kind of funny. Like, it was very planned, but it's still okay. And a little immature, but I still liked it. Where Cesaro said that, like, a good tag team eats together, trains together, and sleeps together. And the crowd kind of laughed at that joke. It was fine. The sleeps together part was all right. So the match is mostly in Cesaro's favor until Braun Strowman actually catches Cesaro in midair and tosses him on his shoulder and does a power slam. Wasn't that much to the match, but I don't know, it was a fitting way to end it, I thought. We then cut to the Hardy compound, and Matt essentially sets the stage. He's there with his family and Senor Benjamin. Then there's a Revival versus Titus Worldwide match, which also starts during the commercial, which drives me nuts. The match is pretty average, maybe below average, but there's kind of a blind tag that almost never happened. And the Revival managed to get a Shatter Machine on Apollo Crews. And then they announced themselves as the first ever future winners of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. It was a weird kind of lead-in. I don't know what's happened to the Revival, because they used to be great promos on NXT. But since they got on the main roster, there's always a weird little misstep in their promos that make them kind of fall flat with the audience. And I can't blame the audience. There is something a little off about the promos. Well, it's all right in the end. Not a big deal. It's just, they weren't making a huge announcement. Speaking of huge announcements, though, Mark Henry is announced as a Hall of Famer. Deservingly so. It was never like a top star, but he was always kind of on the card. He's been there forever. People kind of forget, but he was there in the mid-90s. That's a pretty solid career. He's been there for 20 years or so. Whatever. He seems like a decent man. I'm okay with it. So then you have Sasha Banks and Bayley versus Absolution. Excuse me. Little remnants of last week. So Sasha justifies her behavior in the matches against Bayley by saying, those two matches, so the Rumble and Elimination Chamber, it was every woman for themselves. Bayley was her opponent in those matches, so it makes sense that she wouldn't kind of befriend her, whereas Bayley kind of betrayed her during matches where they were supposed to be together. Which is a strong argument, but then Bayley says, yeah, but the look on your face while you were betraying me in those two matches said a lot, and I can't get over it. And I actually thought, I usually think Bayley's one of the worst promos in the company. I think in NXT I liked her because everybody liked her, but she gets to the main roster and all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, not that good on the mic. But I actually thought she delivered this pretty well. She struggled a tiny bit at the end, but it was still, light years ahead of a lot of stuff that she's done. So I was cool with it. I liked it. Before they got into anything particularly deep, Absolution interrupts with Paige, just saying they're immature and all this stuff, and they resolve their issues in the ring. Match goes on. I don't know. I'm looking at my notes here, and I don't see much that gets me excited. I wrote average. I wrote the word average many times. At the end, it kind of ends with Bayley doing I don't even remember what you call that, but she's basically a backslide on, what's her face? Sonya Deville. And Mandy Rose is being beaten on by a Sasha, which distracts the ref from the backslide. And Bayley would have won like twice over. So then Bayley gets angry with Sasha, kind of pulls her off of Mandy Rose, starts yelling at her. And then because of the distraction, Sonya Deville manages to kick her in the head and win the match. I find like this breakup between Bayley and Sasha is taking so damn long, and you just want it to be done. You just want it to be over with. I don't even care how it goes. I want it to be over with. Cena comes into the ring, and you're going to get a Cena promo. But this one is like even more obnoxious than usual. I'm finding that if The Undertaker were to come out at this point and say, like, yes, I'll face you, Cena would win by being a kind of annoying, entitled princess kind of deal. Like, Cena's like, I'm owed an answer, so are the fans. I'm like, if someone wants to retire, they can retire. They don't owe you anything. But Cena's coming off as the bad guy now, which I'd be fine with if he'd do a heel turn, but he's not doing that. He's like pretending to be a good guy, but he's just being a jerk. That's all he's being. And he's being an annoying jerk. I said it to Rob, whose review's probably going to come up soon. I said it to Rob. I think Cena is the Enzo Amore of wrestling. So just toss that out there. Really annoys me. Eventually Kane comes out. Thank God something happened, and he chokeslams Cena. I don't know if that's the WrestleMania match. I don't care either way. I was just so thankful to see Kane and for this promo to end. I'm not a Cena hater in general. I don't love him. I certainly don't love him. I'm not a hater, but this was awful. Oh, just awful. Ugh. I have like this gross taste in my mouth, and I think it's from the Cena thing. Maybe I need a little bit of water. So last time I took a sip of water, it became my screen grab, which I liked. All right. We got to the Hardy compound, and Matt Hardy's talking to a giraffe. I'm not going to go into any details. Like, these things are ridiculous, and it's fine, but yeah, talks to a giraffe. Then we get The Miz, and The Miz they come out. I wrote that The Miz cuts a Rodney Dangerfield no respect promo. Just talks about how he gets no respect. Uses the indie names for Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, so he calls him Tyler Black and Prince Nevitt, which I thought was kind of an interesting little touch. Then he's interrupted by the Good Brothers music because no one can finish a promo. And then there's a largely forgettable match with a collision between The Miz and Axel near the end, which results in a Balor roll-up of The Miz. The end of the match has The Miz the Miztourage beating up Balor and the Good Brothers. And Seth Rollins, who was on commentary during this match, coming up for the save. It was paint by numbers WWE stuff. I've seen worse. So then we cut to Matt Hardy in a boat. He's got a name for the boat. He's got a name for his lake. I can't remember them, but whatever. It's all right. Then you get a Ronda Rousey video package. And, it's just prepping for WrestleMania. I don't mind this. Rousey struggles a little bit with her timing, so I get kind of protecting her and not putting her on the mic. Then we get Raby Hardy playing Bray's theme on the piano, which was kind of cool. And Bray coming up to the ring on the Hardy compound. So you know you're going to get the ultimate deletion. And then you go to commercial, which is fine. So you come back from commercial and the ultimate deletion match starts. I watched the TNA ones, and I found them to be very charming. And I found that this lacked any kind of real charm. Like, there's a couple little things. I thought when you had to choose between a wheelchair and a lawnmower was kind of somewhat charming. That was the only little bit that I liked. Most of it was kind of just, It felt like House of Horrors match or whatever it was. And they did do a reference to that. But, like, I don't know. Overall, I thought this was quite lacking. WWE kind of finds ways to make things that are cool not cool, and this was one of them. Granted, I've seen worse, but yeah, it just wasn't a strong way to end the show, and this is how the show ended, so it's basically a 15-minute ultimate deletion thing that Matt Hardy ends up winning. You get a little appearance from Jeff Hardy, small appearances from Senor Benjamin and the rest of the family, but nothing major. It wasn't particularly creative. I don't know. Excuse me. I guess I'm tired. It was like a C grade. And that's kind of similar to this whole episode. Excuse me. I'm going to take another sip. This whole episode was kind of under-delivering throughout. I found that there was nothing that was really exceptional. Everything was kind of average, slightly below average. There might have been a couple things that were slightly above average. I can't even think of them right now. But yeah, it was a largely forgettable episode. One of the worst Raws in a while, I would say. I really enjoyed last week's. So yeah, that's all I got. If I had to give it a number grade, maybe a 5.5 out of 10. And maybe I'm being generous with that. I don't like giving a failing grade. At the end of the day, it's still wrestling. So, yeah, 5.5 out of 10, we'll say. All right, thanks for watching.